North America Inkling Open 2019. I'm your Spray by Spray host, Jordan Kent, and joining me, two of the finest Splatalists in all of Inkopolis. We got the gang together again.
We're back
Ashley
together.
Esqueda and Charles 9 Whitehead. First of all, are you guys ready to go this morning?
Always. I'm always ready for Splatoon on any time of day or night. I can't wait to watch the best of the best play. I love it.
This is what I do. This is what I love. The best of the best competing here today on the biggest stage we have to offer.
All right, 9, I know you got your breakfast and your workout in, so
Yes.
You're good to go this morning. But let's talk a little bit more about the action. We'll get a chance to see a doubleheader today as well, too. We'll have the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North America Open as well, too. We'll have the second finals of that. Don't forget, everybody here is punching a ticket to PAX East. We're getting the family together there as well, too. Now let's get back to Splatoon 2. We've got 8 of the top teams that battled it out. They'll be doing some best of 7 matches here. No more just turf war. We'll be bringing you some of those great ranked modes. We'll have Rainmaker, Clam, blitz, Splat zones, and of course, tower control. But Ashley, talk to us a little bit more about how these teams got here and the path to find their way to these finals here.
It was not an easy road for any of these teams. Maybe, we've seen some really good teams. I'm sure they had a fun time getting here, but around 500 teams competed to be here today to compete for those last 4 slots. So I cannot wait to watch them throw down or splash down, I guess I should say. But I am excited about the fact that we not only see some familiar faces that we have seen many times before and that we're all very familiar with, but we also see some new faces, which I know, 9, you've been in the scene. Like, you're in it. You are the scene.
Well, that's maybe a little bit too much, but it's true.
9 is the scene.
For a lot of teams, this will be their first time competing on a stage this big, and that's the pressure, right? When you are on Nintendo's stream, when you are up against the best of the best who've been here before.
And everyone's watching.
Everyone's watching, and it can be a lot. And like you said, I have had some people message me this morning asking for tips on playing at this level on this kind of stream. Ultimately, it is going to be the same game, and can they stay within themselves is what I want to know.
Oh, I hope so.
Now, a lot of people will be obvious and familiar with Splatoon 2, but Ashley, there are some folks that this might be the first time they check out this game.
Yes.
Maybe they're big into the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate community as well, too, and they get a chance to enjoy some Splatoon 2 for the first time. Give us the general gist of what we'll be seeing during these competitive matches today.
So it depends on the game mode. There are different types of game modes, and you've got Splat zones, which you will have to put ink down on the ground. Your team has to put down ink. You can take over. You've got tower control, which is your team's riding a moving tower through a map, trying to get to an end zone. You've got Clam blitz, which is a little bit like football and basketball combined, and clams, but using clams. And then we've also got Rainmaker, which you find this beautiful golden grenade launcher of ink and you take it to your teammates' end goal. So I am super excited to watch. I'm so glad that we're doing all of the different ranked modes because, turf war is really fun.
Right.
But, and splat zones are really fun and very competitive. But I love all of these different game modes because it really shows off how talented these teams truly are.
And 9, we'll be getting started here in about a minute or so, but the advanced meta, as we like to say, what makes these teams so good as far as their ability to stand out from over 500 teams that tried to get here?
Well, as we mentioned before, experience, there's no substitute for that, the composure that comes with that, but the ability to make a balanced team composition. We're going to shorten that to comp, and we're going to be saying that a lot over the course of this. But versatility, there are so many weapons and so many map mode combinations. Being able to adjust to what your opponent is doing on the fly, and a best of 7 really helps with that. You get a chance to see what your opponent.
Yeah, as we'll be bringing you action, we'll certainly point out a lot of those points that you mentioned because this meta has evolved. Last time we all got together, it was the World Championships that we saw back at E3 earlier this year, and now there have been some changes to the game. That's what's great and exciting. So let's get started with our very first matcher. As we mentioned, best of 7. As we take a look at these two teams getting set to tip off, we are getting started here with the Splatoon 2 North America Inkling Open. But Ashley, looking at this level, there's a reason why they call it main stage.
The main stage is where all the action is going to happen. If you can control that main stage, even in tower control, if you can control that center area, you're in a very good position. And this map has actually changed quite a bit since the last time we saw competitive play.
Nobody's got the tower quite yet, but 9, the loadouts that we'll see for this game mode in particular.
They are so very different here. You're going to take a look at that team on the left. That is Team What. You see they're running what we would call a meta composition here. They have those Kensa Splat Dualies as a frontliner, and they have 2 very strong supportive weapons in the Kensa Slocker Machine and the Kensa Brella. They're going to be pushing up as a unit and allowing Power back there on that sniper to have free reign. But right now, it looks like Element R is doing their thing too.
Element R with the early lead, 93 to 97. Remember, you're moving the tower, getting to the checkpoints. The team that can advance the tower the furthest or get it to the goal will be the winner before time expires. And right now, you see Tic Tac trying to ink some territory on the main stage. And you look at the territory control and why it's so vital in every single game mode.
Every single game mode, it's the fundamentals of the game. When you push up and when you have the turf, it allows your team to run up and be a little bit more aggressive because they know that they have a way back into the action. Tic Tac really hasn't even had to do much. You see him throwing out that torpedo sub, Power throwing this out, but really they're just opening things up for Penguin and Fuzzy on the front lines to go and wreak havoc. And look at this, the tower continues to move.
What, moving on to the second checkpoint at this point, 3:30 left. 4-4 on the field. You see a special ready to go for What as well too. And Ashley, we talk about stacking specials when you're trying to make that push to really get through the enemy's defense.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes in handy when one or more of your teammates also have their specials ready to go. You can always kind of do that, like you said, a rush where you all use your specials at the same time to help keep your teammates or keep your opponents away from the tower and also keep them off the field.
What is approaching the final checkpoint, just 12 points away from victory, and you figure here, Charles, they're going to get ready to make a strong push to close things out.
They are, and you saw that they used that Stingray from a very aggressive position. I want you to look at how Power is right by the tower there. Backliners in these days, they can't be sitting back on the back. They have to be up there and in the middle of the action. Power, one of the finest at it as he walks this. They have to get past this last checkpoint, but that snipe might have done it.
Very nice.
Critical splat by Power as they're moving the tower here, and What will go ahead and take the first game. And you see how quickly these things can go when you can get the momentum, Ashley. And not only did What do a great job of securing the tower, but then pushing Element R back as well too.
Yeah, well, that was, like Nine was saying, it's really interesting to watch these North American teams play because they're so aggressive. They're so good at what they do. And they're also really good at staying together. So for me, at the end, obviously, it was the Tower of Power, right? Like, he's on there and he's going nuts. Like, that's usually you would see a year ago, you would have seen a backliner much farther back and not riding the tower. And now we're seeing them really get up there with their teammates. And I love this super aggressive play style.
And Nine, you were talking about the backliners, and that's been one of the biggest changes we've seen in the meta since we last covered one of these tournaments is you can no longer just camp back there, start a fire, and hang out and roast some marshmallows. You have to be on the move, and that can be challenging when you have to balance so many things.
It can be because you're always open. The further you move up, the more susceptible you are to flanks, and nobody wants that. But at the same time, if you sit back, you're putting your team in a 3v4 situation. And remember, in a game where it's 4v4, if one person goes down, that's a quarter of your squad.
That's a huge deficit.
That is, and it's going to slow you down a lot. So it's a very tight line the backliners have to walk, but when you can snipe like Power can, makes it a little bit easier, I'd say.
Yeah.
And it seemed like What did a fantastic job of not only being aggressive and securing the tower, but when you have that tower component, you also have to be very defensive because it seemed like they didn't really have any type of issues whatsoever with Element R trying to take the tower away from them.
They didn't, and one thing that I do want to point out about Element R's composition is you saw they had a ballpoint splatling as well as a custom jet squelcher, and we would typically call both of those backliners. I think that What saw that. They saw that once we get going, they will not be able to set up. We can continue to push and pressure them back, and that's why that first push was really the only one they needed.
Yeah.
And we also saw the ink armor going out. That's been a special move that's really been seeing a resurgence as of late because you get a chance to protect yourself from any one hit, and sometimes that can be a special move as well too and negates that. And so What doing a fine job with that, as you said, composition, that loadout, Power being on the back line, and getting the main splat at the end here. All right, let's get set for our second match here. Remember, it's best out of 7. What takes a 1-0 lead. Next match, next game mode, next stage as well too. And this is going to be the fun part, seeing how well these teams can balance the different loadouts, the different stages, what's demanded of them of each game mode. These teams are all so good, but you never know if it comes down to a stage or a mode that might be the deciding factor here as well too. Will what have any issues? But Splat Zones and Humpback Pump Track, and Ashley, a stage that we all know and love.
Oh man, I'm so excited to see this. I think obviously what is very composed. They have a lot of experience. There is one single Splat Zone on this map. There's not two. It's right in the center. This is going to be a real battle. You're going to see a lot of bombs going off with lots of ink flying, and I cannot wait to see who takes this one.
What already with the early control of the stage and 9 at this point, when you have the Splat Zone, what are you looking to do at this point?
Well, you're looking to push up. You cannot wait for the opponent to come to you because that means they're going to build their specials. At the beginning of that game, Power got an immediate snipe on the Explosher from Element R. That meant they weren't going to have any painting prowess. You see a fantastic angle here. Look at that line of sight, seeing exactly where the opponents are. But what right now? This is clinical. They've been moving up. Look how far up
forward Power
is.
That is amazing. I love how aggressive he is. He is very secure in exactly what he's doing. Like you said, he has such good line of sight right there.
What, wasting no time. They don't want to play with their dinner whatsoever. They're trying to get the quick knockout here, already up 32-100. Element R is going to have to really deploy 2 of their readily available specials. You see some bubbles come out. Tenta missiles ready to go as well too. Oh, and Element R unable to seize control and unable to apply that penalty. And now you have a 4-0 wipe. And at this point here, 9, you're going ahead and putting your tray table up and coasting to victory.
Let's head on to game 3. How about that? How about that? And just the way that they attacked at the very beginning.
So aggressive.
It was. And you saw one thing that I want to note. This might be just a little bit more advanced for people who aren't familiar with Splatoon, but when Power moves up in that position, it's a very strong spot on that map because it forced all of the members of Element R to the left side. They had to go completely different.
Yep.
They had everyone waiting, and once the specials came out, they were ready with a baller of their own.
And they had them cornered on that left side of the map. It was so interesting because the Stingray came out. It got a couple splats right there. And we talk about Splat Zones, Ashley, being one of the most difficult modes to really mount a comeback in because this game is all about territory control. That's what Splat Zones is about as far as a game mode. And when you get pushed back, you're now up against the wall facing so many things that can be a huge obstacle for you to try and mount a comeback.
You do have a lot of hurdles. I mean, even when you lose the Splat Zone, if you get that initial control, but then, halfway through, all of a sudden you lose that control, now you're fighting a handicap, and that other team has taken control of that zone. So you have to overcome 2 obstacles as opposed to just taking it in the beginning like what did and riding it all the way to the end.
Yeah, very quick knockout for what probably left Element R thinking, what after that one? And so mentally here, you're down 2-0. You've talked about this stage for some of these competitors. What are you telling yourself if you're Element R to make sure that you don't fall down 3-0? Because at that point, a comeback's going to probably be out of the picture.
Well, I think that Element R needs to look at their composition and understand we are just getting pushed back and we can't break back in. So that time they again brought out the ballpoint Splatling. They also brought out the Explosher, and it's a good pick on that map and mode, but that's 2 maps in a row. They've had 2 conventional backliners, and they just haven't been able to keep pace with what. They're going to need to speed things up a little bit. I think they have to start there before they look at anything else.
We'll have Clam Blitz coming up here next, and Ashley, it's a game mode that was the 4th one to join the party here with an update to Splatoon 2. But we're also starting to see the strategies evolve in this one.
Yeah, but when we last were all together, Clam Blitz was a little bit newer, and I think a lot of teams were a little more tentative about the play. And now it's sort of, there's a very standard kind of strategy in Clam Blitz, which involves the baller, and you send in your bomb, basically, your Inkling bomb, and they explode, and then you send in someone else with all the clams.
And we've also talked about the coordination with the super jumps as well, too. And we're going to go ahead and get the party started here. And when you look at Clam Blitz, we've talked about the management of the currency, 9. Tell me why it's so important to keep in mind what's on the stage and how many clams you have at a given point.
The classic clam economy. So you're going to see up there on the left and right side of the screens that small ticker that shows the number. That is how many clams these teams have. For those of you unfamiliar, you have to build up 10 clams in order to build up what we call the power clam. Once you have that, you can go in, you can break the opponent's basket, and that's how you score your points. So it's all the more important that you do have a semblance of map control, because if you can't get around the map, you're not going to get any clams.
Got to make those lanes.
4-4 on the field right now. What in the orange? Element R in the purple. Slight costume change from the last 2 matches that we saw there. But right now, nobody necessarily on the map as far as with a score, but you've got 3-2 advantage. And we talk about in this game 9, so much of it comes down to having that numbers advantage with these Inkling and Octoling sometimes as well.
It is. Like we said earlier, there's only 4, so if you go 2 down, that is, again, half of your force. And I love the way that you saw Fuzzy and Tic Tac work up together. You have to look for 2v1s at this level. It's not enough to rely on being able to win 1v1s. They moved up together, and you're seeing a big score to open up. If the scoring is done, 48, a great opening on this map. You wouldn't know it, but it's actually kind of difficult to score here.
It is.
It is, and Ashley, we saw that ticker, and a lot of teams are very careful about when they fill that Clam basket up because you do have a bit of a window to take advantage before that basket seals up again.
Yeah, you got your time advantage, so you can have your backliners, if they are carrying any clams, they can come in last. I mean, you're probably going to see, you got Power right here, he's got 5, right? So you're going to see them kind of come in a little bit later after those frontliners kind of take care of everything going on in the area and just easily just toss them right in. That's the goal there.
Power deploying another Stingray, trying to keep Element R on the move right now. 48 to 109. We continue to see that consistent pressure applied by what?
It's consistent in pressure, and again, we saw it in the first game, we saw it again. They forced the members of Element R to go to one side. All 4 of them were next to each other. What did they do immediately? Let's deploy our Stingray, let's get some chip damage, let's take a couple out, and let's gain pure map control. You see 27 clams. That might be enough to end this game if they play their cards right.
Got a Power Clam on the field right now. Not court, it's a field.
All right.
Little inside joke right there. Little inside joke. You're my boy, though. We got Fuzzy with the getting splatted right now, 100 to 48. 3-3 on the field, special ready to go for Element R.
That's tough for Fuzzy because Fuzzy is the baller here.
Yes.
So he's going to lose a little bit of that special gauge, which is going to be a little bit tougher for them to start scoring, for what?
Element R starting to take a little bit more of the territory with their ink. You see a baller ready to go as well, too. 3-2 on the field. All of a sudden, it's even up at 3-3, and Element R breaking the barrier. A chance for them to get on the board. Can What defend them? You've got 3 members from What at the base, and it looks like Element R unable to take advantage of that window, 9.
Just not enough pressure and not enough follow-up there. You saw they did get the score and they had the baller, but it was just a little bit miscoordinated. They had a chance to get some more points here, and really they got kind of fortunate that they were able to separate the members of What. But again, it's not just that opening, it's the follow-up and the consistent pressure that you need at this level of the game.
Power still on the back line right now, securing things. You've got What? 4-3 advantage on the field. About 1:30 left in this one. What's got the lead? They're looking to take a 3-0 lead in this best-of-7 match. And already we start to see What continue to lock things down. But this is also a stage 9 where you can't quickly get to the other team's side because you've got those mesh crates.
Right, and we saw earlier there were actually 3 power clams that Team What had, and they ended up not scoring any of them. Because when you do that, when you hold them back, it makes it difficult for your team to move up because the opponent can see it. This time, I like the fact that there's only using 2, which is allowing Fuzzy to go in and peng it. Everyone's going to jump in, but we actually had a counter score. Well, all of that was happening. You can only score at one time. I don't believe this. This is fantastic counterplay by Element R. They might get the lead.
You saw What try to go for the knockout punch right there, but Element R was able to get their basket open. When they do that, there's only one that can be open. Element R takes the lead with 30 seconds left, and that is huge if they want to stay alive in this best-of-7. What? They've got 20 seconds left to make a final push. They're down. Keep in mind, 9, they have that penalty that they have to overcome as well.
They do, but it's not much. 2 power clams will be enough to erase this deficit, and we will go into overtime as long as one of those power clams is there. They have more than enough ammunition, and right now we need a fantastic defense from Element R, and I think they're all gone. And despite a furious counterattack, What, with the composure, knowing that they had the resources on the map to get that win.
They got the rag out at the end, Ashley, and wiped things clean. It was 4-0, and at that point, there was no resistance for What. They kept their calm, as 9 said, and that's really the sign of a champion in a situation like that.
This team is, we're very familiar with a lot of members of this team, and we've seen them before as Set to Destroy X. We've seen Pengit and Power really are like some of the 2 of the players. They're best in the world and at what they do. And so I think a lot of this comes down to experience. You know, you have played on this stage before. You're able to keep your composure when you lose the lead with just a little bit of time left, and you're able to keep it together, take a deep breath, and make it happen.
And really the turning point of that match, 9, was when you saw what try to go in for that final knockout. They had the lead. It was a sizable one. But Element R was able to get their basket open prior to what getting to theirs. And it really seemed like that's when it opened up the game.
It did. And just, again, fantastic presence of mind to know that that is an option. And if you're not familiar with Clam Blitz, only one team can score at a time. When you open up the opponent's basket, yours closes. So they had to have snuck around, I believe, their brush player or someone along the back lines, knowing that what was focused forward, all the way forward, putting all of their specials, all of their jumps. It was sneaky, and it was just clever. But again, credit to what, not diving in and trying to make the play too early, understanding Element R, they know they have to defend. They're going to come out a little bit to try to make the play too early. Let's stick together. Let's 2v1 them down. And as you said, 4-0 makes it very easy to score.
Makes it very difficult. So what takes a 3-0 lead? If they win one more match, they will move on to PAX East. They'll be our first representative heading there. If you're Element R, you've got to mount a momentous comeback that'll be written down in the C scrolls for ages and ages if you're able to bounce back in this one. We have Rainmaker coming up. Teams are getting set for this one. But I want to talk a little bit more about the loadouts because we've also seen some updates. We saw the Kensa line get introduced, and that is really opening up the game to a lot more weapons that we typically didn't see at this level.
Right. The Splatter Shot Pro that we saw there that Tic Tac was using has kind of been, I guess, a bit undersold so far. You'd have some people use it, but they would be considered specialists. It's a fine main weapon, but as you mentioned, the Kensa line having that Booyah Bomb that just recently got a big buff was a big, big boon to it, and also main power-up. We haven't talked about it, but that is a new ability that you can put on your gear that's made the weapon all the more formidable.
And that's been the fun part about this game, Ashley. We've been covering it for a couple years now, and it just continues to change and evolve and adds new wrinkles, and you throw in the fact that you've got all these power-ups, these abilities, these maps, and it's such a different experience every time you play.
It is, but one of my favorite things about it is that even if you really love a specific type of weapon, so if I love dualies and the meta changes, and now it's all about baller, but then, you know, a year ago it was all about the inkjet. You know, you have the ability to use that loadout. You can just go to Sheldon Shop and buy yourself a new pair of dualies, you know, that has the right special on it.
Let's head to Piranha Pit for our fourth match in this best of 7. You've got what? Looking for the 4-0 sweep. Can Element R bounce back, though? Early on, and 9, a very unique stage because you've got all these conveyor belts and you're going to have to manage those. It really doesn't allow you to stay still at any one point.
It doesn't, and it's a very long map, so we're going to see a lot of these right here. Get used to the squeal of the Stingray, and I love the composition that Element R has come out with right now. We said earlier they needed to be more aggressive. You see right now 2 conventional frontliners in the NZAP and the Octo Shot supporting the brush, and Noddle here on this custom Jet Squelcher, which is one of the fastest and most mobile backliners in the game.
Element R in the green, what in the blue? And early on, Rainmaker being grabbed by Element R and Ashley. It really takes a concerted team effort and a lot of communication when you're trying to push that Rainmaker.
Yeah, this is a very long map for Rainmaker. When you have a long ways to go, you've really got to have support from your teammates because, one, it takes a long time to fire the Rainmaker. And on top of that, obviously, when you are glowing, as Tic Tac is right now, everyone's coming for you.
Tic Tac trying to freshen things up right here, getting through the splash wall. You see the advantage, and that will do it. What? Didn't even break a sweat. A 4-0 sweep of Element R. They will be moving on to PAX East, and it looks like we found our favorite when you look at this field here because 9, for as talented as all these players are, what? Making it look like child's play.
They are 4-0. You can't get much more dominant than that. And one thing that I want to talk about that they did there at the end, they used the Booyah Bomb and the Stingray, so a conjunction of 2 long-range specials, to move Fuzzy, their frontliner, up by that pedestal. You saw him standing there. He threw a wall.
Waiting.
I don't even think he played the last 5 seconds of the game because they used the misdirection and the power of those long-range specials to move their frontliners up. That is coordination at the top level.
And you talk about that coordination. These teams have played hours and hours and hours together.
Thousands of hours.
Really with what we saw in all of these matches, Ashley, was their ability to use that coordinated effort to make that one critical push that they needed to take the lead.
And that really speaks to the level of experience, the amount of time they have spent together playing, figuring out their strategies. And at the top level of this game, like 9, you can speak a lot to this, which is at the top level of this game, there are specific strategies that a lot of teams with a certain meta build are utilizing. And so you can prepare for that and try to defend that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the other team isn't just going to be so good at it that they just run right over you.
Right. I mean, understanding what the opposing team is trying to do is one thing. Stopping it is
another.
entirely different.
Entirely, yeah. Easier said than done.
Right. And there is the element of mechanical just skill and execution of any sort of game plan. But when you saw there how different the lineups were, and there is a reason that what is called meta is called meta. It makes it more, I would say, it makes you more versatile, first of all, but it also just makes it possible for you to execute those types of game plans that we saw. And again, if you can find a 2v1, that's always better on the coordination point. And you saw there, it never seemed like it was just a straight 1v1 with any of the members of what. Sometimes you fight a team like that, and it feels like the other team has 8 squids instead of 4.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at some of the clinic-like play we saw from what throughout these matches, because really, what you saw from them is what you're trying to replicate at any level of Splatoon. Concerted team efforts, executing perfectly. Take us through what we're seeing with Power here when we had tower control early on, Nine.
Well, you see right there, they have their frontliners pushed up, and Power is really the only person on the map who can do anything about that ballpoint splatling, the only one with enough range. And that really is just icing on the cake of what was already a pretty dominant push there. But again, it's the willingness for every member to go up and make those plays.
And then this was the turning point, Ashley and Clam blitz. Pengit trying to come in. They have the concerted team effort from what? But Element R sneaking through the back door and getting their Clam basket active.
I absolutely love this. Like, what a delightfully sneaky strategy. Because they're so aggressive, they knew that they could go back there and there would only be Power. They knew that they could get, if we can just get back there and flank, we can sneak in, get some points up, and then we can, get back out and try to defend. But as Nine said, you can't score when the other team is scoring. You can't score and vice versa. So they knew if we can just break that barrier and get some clams in, like they're just going to be sitting at our goal doing nothing.
Let's take a look at the bracket here as what advances. One of our 4 teams that will be going to PAX East, joining our representatives from the regions in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate from the finals last time we were down here in Vegas. And so coming up here, match 2, you have Low Key Splatoon versus Ink Sigma. Any notes on one of these 2 teams here?
Well, I got a boat full of notes for both of these teams. So I'll just go with the basics right now. If you watched any of Genesis, if you've watched any of the big Splatoon tournaments, you will know Low-Key is one of the least conventional teams. They are the mad scientist team that is in this bracket right now.
They love to experiment.
They love to experiment because they understand that what is meta is only meta until we beat it. And then what we do is meta.
And then we're the meta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a lot of interesting play styles here. You're going to see Arashi's Ultra Stamp, that new special that got added, devastating with it. And on the other side, though, Ink Sigma seeded 268th at the start of this.
Hey.
Yeah.
That's a few
You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
All right, well, stick around. When we come back, we will see if the counter-punching of low-key Splatoon can bring us some excitement as we get ready to bring you our second of our best of 7 here at the Splatoon 2 North America Inkling Open 2019.
More games, more features, more fun. Nintendo Switch Online. With a Nintendo Switch Online membership, you'll get online play, a growing catalog of classic NES titles with newly added online play, and cloud backup for your game-saved data. Also, you can enhance your experience through the smartphone app and get access to special offers. The service is available now. Think about which plan is right for you. If your family has 2 or more accounts, you can save some money with the family membership. More games, more features, more fun. Nintendo Switch Online.
Let's go.